Faudra danser avec moi. Le cordonnier s'est fait. Qu'est-ce que t'as-t-on dans la tête? C'est que moi.
Welcome back, dreamers. Tonight, my guest is Tim R. Swartz. Tim is an Emmy-Award winning television producer, a photojournalist, and the author of over 10 books, including Gef The Talking Mongoose, America's Strange and Supernatural History, The Lost Journals of Nikola Tesla, Tim R. Swartz's big book of incredible alien encounters, along with many, many more publications. Adding to this, Tim has appeared in the History Channel's Ancient Aliens and has traveled the world extensively investigating paranormal phenomena and other unusual mysteries, everywhere from the Great Pyramids in Egypt to the Great Wall in China. So without further ado, grab your blanket, turn down the lights, get comfy, and let's fade away into
Dreamland.
Well, hey, I'm super excited to talk with you because, you know, I've been a big fan of your podcast, and you and Timothy Green Beckley's podcast that you had, Exploring the Bizarre. I've listened to that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I've listened to, I think, every single episode of that. And you guys crack me up. You guys are hilarious.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's I hate that that I had to stop it, but without Tim, it just wasn't the show anymore.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. How? I know you guys were really close. How are you doing with that?
Well, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it's just one of those things. You just have to accept what's going on and continue on with your life. Tim and I mean, we worked together for more than 20 years and, all kinds of different capacities. So, I mean, yeah, it's been a little, it takes some adjustment.
Yeah. You guys were, if I'm wrong, let me know here, but it seems like you guys were polar opposites, but you had so much in common at the same time. Am I right about that?
Well, I mean, if you believe in astrology, it's funny because we're both Cancers. I was born like right on the cusp between Gemini and Cancer, and Tim was a little bit later on. But yeah, I mean, he was definitely a lot more outgoing and gregarious than myself. I tend to be, definitely more quiet, and same way with the way that we handled our investigations and things like that. I mean, Tim always enjoyed the spotlight and letting people know what he was doing, and getting out there onto the stage, while I generally tended to prefer to stay more in the background.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we were, but we had, I mean, basically all the same interests and stuff. So I mean, you could never, we never had a lack of something to talk about.
I know all about you Cancers. My wife is a Cancer, and I'll tell you, you guys are a mixed bag.
Well, like I said, I mean, astrology is one of those things where it's just like, sometimes I'll pay attention to it, and sometimes I don't. But I mean, a lot of the things, especially like like I said, being born close to the Gemini cusp with Cancer, so it's like, that really does tend to fit my personality fairly well.
Yeah. My wife's as well. She's spot on. Like almost all those, the things that kind of tell you the basis of what a Cancer is. She fits the mold almost perfectly. And I myself, I'm an Aquarius, and I tend to fit that mold as well.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Two water signs.
Yep. Yeah, we're crazy together, and we're both Irish, so you got to watch out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's not, gosh, what would it be? Maybe, like Cancer, Sagittarius, or something like that. I'm not quite sure. The polar opposites, but I think that's one of them.
Yeah. Well, hey, I am super excited to pick your brain, and I'll be honest with you, Tim. I don't even know where to start because your list is so deep and so like you have this list like that is just crazy, and I don't think I could fit it all in, but I'm going to try my best, and I might jump here and there and everywhere, but I love picking brains, and I am super excited to talk with you. And if I don't get it all in this time, I may just have to sneak you on again sometime.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's I love to talk about all of this stuff. So I mean, just throw it at me, and we'll see what sticks.
Sounds good to me. So first of all, I'd kind of like to know, what's your history with this? Like, what is your history in the paranormal, in the weirdness and UFOs? And I mean, you've got a list, like I said, Hollow Earth, time travel, Nikola Tesla, UFOs, breakaway civilizations. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I just want to know, like, what was the spark of your interest at the beginning?
Well, like a lot of people, it actually started with me when I was a kid, but not quite like you would think. I was kind of drugged kicking and screaming into the whole world of weirdness. It started when I was in third grade, and at that time, I had no idea about any of this kind of stuff. I was interested in science. I liked, like rockets in outer space, but, I was an Indiana boy. So, I mean, I was more interested in, say, like basketball and car racing. I got the Indianapolis 500 here, stuff like that. But one time in school, there used to be a thing that Scholastic Books would release every week to kids. It was like their newspaper.
I remember that.
What was it called? Like the weekly, like Weekly News or so. Not the World Weekly News. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
It was an aggregate of all of the week's headlines. Kind of key down bit for kids' consumption. And our teacher would assign one of these stories to each of us every week that we'd have to write, like a little essay about it, and then do a presentation in front of the class. Well, one time I got a news article about UFOs. And, like I said, I really had no idea about UFOs. I'd heard, maybe heard about it, but no real interest. So, I mean, I wrote my essay and gave my presentation and thought that was going to be it. No, it wasn't. I was then pegged by the rest of the class and eventually the rest of the school as the guy who believed in flying saucers and little green men from Mars and stuff like that. Which is like, okay, now wait a minute. How come I get pegged with this? I mean, I have no interest in this kind of stuff. But nope, that's, I was the flying saucer guy. The interesting thing was that, people, when you're in a group and stuff, you're like, you don't believe in green men from Mars. But then later, by themselves, they would come back and say things to me like, I don't believe in this kind of stuff, but, and then proceed to tell me a story about, when they were on vacation with the family, they saw a UFO, or their, great grandmother Ethel's been appearing at the foot of their bed, even though that she's been dead for a couple of months. Stories like that. And that's what really got me interested in all of this. The stories were fascinating, but it was the individual accounts, the personalities behind these stories, because we all have a filing system in our heads that we put away all of our daily activities. You get up, eat your breakfast, have your coffee, get in your car, drive to work, come home. Each one of those activities, there's a place in your head where, you get in your car, that goes in that file. Stop at a red light, that goes in that file. Say you're going to work and a UFO suddenly comes down from the sky, lands in front of you. Little guys come out, collect dirt and plants and stuff, get back in and fly away. Most people don't have a place in that filing system in their head to put something like that.
True.
So it's a little bit different now with all of the reality television shows, ghost hunters and, searching for Bigfoot and UFO shows as well. But for a lot of people who have had no experience, no interest in this kind of stuff, an unusual experience like that really kind of throws your brain out of whack. A lot of people will shut down and think that they're going crazy, refuse to talk about the situation, refuse to even acknowledge that it even happened. I know that there's a lot of people that after they have a weird experience, that they'll come up with some of the most bizarre explanations to try to explain it away.
Sure.
Maybe that UFO landing in front of my car with the little guys coming out was a secret Air Force test experiment or something, or my great grandmother Matilda appearing, at the foot of my bed. Maybe it was just a weird, hypnagogic dream, and God forbid, you can never tell anybody about that type of experience, because you'll just be laughed out of the room. You can't tell anybody at work. Most people will just tease you endlessly. And, oh, no, don't tell that your family is worse. Unless you come from a family that has a history of weird encounters. You'll end up being the center of attention at every Thanksgiving for the next 20 years, and not in a good way.
Right.
So it's these kinds of stories with just really just the everyday person who has no interest, no previous kinds of experience, and just wants to know what the hell happened to them. That's what really stoked my interest, and so many people would come to me and tell me their story, and they were actually surprised when I wouldn't laugh at them or say that they were crazy, and I would say I've said to so many people like, it sounds like that you had a fascinating experience, and I'll tell you what, you're not alone. There's been thousands of people throughout history, all across this planet, heck, millions maybe, all across this planet who have had similar experiences. And they too may have thought that they were crazy, but, you're not. They weren't. you probably had a real experience. Who knows what happened, but it probably did happen. And I tell you, you could see the weight lifted off of their shoulders. When I would say things like that to them, and they'd walk away happy. They may never ever tell that story again to anybody else. But it didn't matter. One person said that, you probably did have something weird happen to you. So, I mean, that's really what got me into all this, were these personal experiences from people who weren't looking for publicity, weren't looking to write a book or make money. They just wanted to know what it was that happened to them.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? I mean, that people just want to be heard, like especially people that have had these weird encounters. And when somebody tells them, yeah, you probably had something happen to you, I mean, whether you believe it or not, it helps them along,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, and, I would say that practically everybody has had at least one strange thing happen to them. Most of us has had, several things, but, a lot of people, like I said before, tend to ignore it or try to come up with, some kind of mundane explanation rather than admitting that, that was something weird,
Right.
Whoa, what was going on there? That was weird. That scares me. A lot of people, they don't want to be, they don't want to be scared. They don't want to think beyond their normal daily life.
Right.
And when something unusual intrudes upon that freaks a lot of people out.
The best part of it for me is when something like that happens to someone or they have that experience, it's always you and I, the weirdos that they come to let us know that this has happened, right? Like, they're like, hey, you were full of shit before, but now this happened to me. So let me tell you what happened, right?
Yeah, it's true though. And it's unfortunately because I think a lot of people now know that if they try to, talk to friends or family about it, that the majority of the time they're going to be laughed at and made fun of, and nobody wants that. Fortunately, with the internet, it's now a lot easier to find people like us to be able to. I mean, when I got started on all this, I mean, the internet. What the hell is that? If you wanted to talk to people, oh gosh, I mean, when I got started, there wasn't even an internet. I mean, you called people on the phone or wrote them a letter.
Yep. Same.
Yeah.
We're it sounds like we're a couple of old farts, Tim. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I tell you something. I really appreciate the internet because it does allow information to get out there to the proper of people. Of course, on the opposite end, that also means that there's a lot of bad misinformation that gets out there too, and a lot of people, unfortunately, haven't learned to tell the difference, between the crap and the and the real stuff. But right. Then again, I mean, even before the internet, I mean, you could go to the library if you had a good library and find books that were full of really good, useful information, and then find books that were, full of junk. So it's, the only difference with the internet is that you can access junk a lot quicker.
True. And you can sift through it easier than the damn Dewey Decimal System.
Right, right. You know.
Yeah, I had you mentioned Scholastic earlier, and Scholastic was a huge part of my life when I was a kid. I loved to read. Actually, my parents were librarians, so it was absolutely terrible when I was a kid. I had to read one of those things, and now that I'm older, I appreciate that. The only thing I really watch on TV is sports, and that's really it. Other than that, I'm usually have my nose in a book somewhere, and or I'm listening to something or researching the internet, but I remember Scholastic when I was a kid, they still put out that little newsletter, and you could order books off of it and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I remember if you read so many books from the Scholastic thing, they had a sister program called Book It, where if you read this many books, you could get a free pizza at the end of the week. And it was the highlight of my week is to get that free personal pizza,
Oh, that's great.
It was work, man, but I got that pizza at the end of the
week. Well, yeah, I mean, after I got interested in this kind of stuff, like the first UFO related book that I got was a little paperback book called Is Something Up There, from Scholastic Books. And I don't know I doubt if I still have that. I've moved and had flooded basements and things like that since that time. So it's probably no longer with me, but but I mean, that would have been, what, in the 68, 69, something like that when that book came out. So, I mean, even that early on, I mean, they were writing books geared towards a younger audience, which, I mean, it's that was great. I mean, now you can find, kids can find all kinds of really interesting books, not only on UFOs but cryptozoology, ghosts and hauntings. It's wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. Which leads me to my next question for you. Do you think that, I know there's theories out there, but do you think that we are being conditioned as a society towards something by these books and the TV programs and things like that?
I don't know. I mean, that's an idea that's been going on for quite a while. I mean, if take for instance the UFO phenomena. I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, sure, you had science fiction movies, and even some Saturday morning cartoons would have science fiction,
Transformers and all that stuff. Yeah.
Space Ghost and things like that. That had,
Space Ghost was awesome.
Dealt with alien life, and but even then, the idea to even consider that there may be extraterrestrials somewhere out there was still considered, whether or not they were visiting Earth or not, was considered pretty far out. Even astronomers would say, "Oh well, there's no proof that." At that time, there wasn't even any proof that there were any other planets outside of our solar system.
Sure.
Our telescopes had not developed far enough yet to prove that point.
Pluto was still a planet then too.
That's right. It's still a planet.
I agree. I agree too. I agree with that.
I was brought up with Pluto as a planet, and that never did sort of stay a planet.
I agree. And Roy G. Biv too. What happened to that? Some of that fell off too.
Yeah. But you look now at popular culture, And it's the whole idea of intelligent life on other planets is really almost taken as a matter of fact. There's this great story that I ran across one time where a man and a wife and their young teenage son were walking home from a party, and it was at night, and a UFO suddenly swooped down and hovered over them for a while, and the adults were just captivated. But the boy had his cell phone and really didn't pay that much attention. And afterwards, they were like, "Oh my God, this is like a UFO. Why weren't you?" And the kid was like, "What? It was a UFO."
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be something special? So I mean, here you have this younger generation who is taking this kind of stuff very matter of factly. So if there has been some kind of effort through the years to try to desensitize people towards the idea of not only that there's extraterrestrial life out there, but they might actually be here visiting us, has been very successful.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. I mean, I always tend to, kind of side more on the side that, it's probably not a conspiracy, because conspiracies like that tend to be really hard to keep secret for any length of time.
True.
It's it's like some of these really outlandish conspiracy theories that are going around now, especially in politics. And and these were conspiracy theories that have been around for quite a while, and most of us who paid attention to conspiracy theory years ago knew that back then that they were dubious at best. But they found a new audience now of people who maybe spend a little too much time on social media, and it's like I said earlier, maybe aren't the best at discerning information and telling the difference between information and disinformation. So when it comes to something along the lines of some, government or even an international agency trying to desensitize us to the idea of extraterrestrials, while it could be possible, I don't know if it would have managed to keep itself that secret for that long a time. Especially if you're dealing with creative types, say like in Hollywood and places like that. Somebody eventually is going to come out, whistleblow, and say, "Hey, the Men in Black came to visit me and paid us money to make these flying saucer cartoons. What's up with that?"
Kind of like Stanley Kubrick did with the moon landing thing, right?
Yes, exactly. Again, that's one of those things. It's like, if they managed to fake the moon landings, I mean, they had access to special effects that were above and beyond what were really available in 1968, 69, that sort of thing. So, yeah. And now, I mean, even though that we've got some really wonderful CGI based special effects, for the most part, you can tell that it's CGI. It's some of these UFO videos that you can find on YouTube. that, I mean, they look really, really good, but I mean, you can tell that this is something that somebody has made on their computer.
Agreed.
But it's not going to be long though before people are going to get better and better at it, and it's going to be a lot harder to tell the difference between something that is real and isn't. Most of the time, the people who are trying to hoax it will make some kind of silly mistake that will blow it. With me, a lot of these fake UFO videos that you see, you'll see the UFO, in the sky. It's nice and clear, it looks great, but then all of a sudden it'll streak away in like a little flash of light, be gone like that. And it's like, you can tell that's the fake.
Yeah. I want to go back to this little story you told about the parents and the teenager walking down the road and seeing the UFO. See, in my case, it would be totally different. I would be jumping up and down, being like, I told you so. I told you so. And my kids would be like, oh my God, he's right. Like, we're going to go somewhere else. Like, that's the way that would play out in my book. Like, because my kids, they make fun of me all the time, but I'm the crazy UFO dad. That's me. But it's fun, right? Like, the first time they see something, guess who they're going to come to? Yeah.
Yep. That's right. Well, and I always say, to people, especially some of the ones that are always very keen to be skeptical and debunk these kind of things. And what I always say is that, wow, I said, your world must be really, really boring, because to me, all this stuff shows what a wonderfully fascinating universe that we live in.
Yeah.
It's not just the sun rises, the sun sets, you get up, you go to work, you come home, go to bed, do it all over again. No, there's so much more to our reality that we don't understand. And that's what makes life fun and interesting to me, is all of these weird things that every now and then will creep out of the shadows and shock us and show us that there's other stuff going on that we don't understand yet.
Man.
And that's it's almost like our earliest ancestors who would go out at night, throw rocks at the moon.
Yeah.
I liken us even today to that, because there's still so much that we don't understand. And the best that we can do is throw rocks at things, and try to understand. And so, I mean, that's what it's fun.
I'll give you.
That's what I say.
Mad applause for that, because it's that was perfectly said. And I talk to people all the time that are like, oh, I can't wait for disclosure, and I can't wait. I don't want disclosure. Like, you're taking the fun away from me. Like, don't tell me. Like, don't tell me. Like, I want to figure it out myself. Don't tell me at all.
Well, I mean, I always tell people who are like that, especially when it comes to disclosure. I always say, well, if the government or the president or the military comes out and does disclosure, are you going to believe it? Are you going to be satisfied with what you hear? Probably not. you know, because no matter what is said, there's always going to be, a certain majority, minority, whatever you want to call it, of people who aren't going to believe it no matter what is said. If they come out and say, yes, aliens are out there, they've been visiting us for years. Here's one now. He's going to come up to, a lot of people are going to be like, it's just CGI. It's whatever.
Well, I think that people like you and I are going to be like, okay, then why didn't you tell us a long time ago, this and that and the other, right? But then on the other hand, like I have friends that have, like, I've shown them evidence upon evidence upon evidence of stuff, and they're like, it's all bullshit. And then the government comes out this last summer or the year before and says, yeah, we have this shitty Navy footage that you can look at that is not as good as the other stuff that Ken showed you. And, my friends go, oh shit, it's real. And you're like, dude, I've showed you stuff that's way better than that. Like, but just because the government told you it's real, now you're going to believe that. It's maddening to me. And those are the people that to me are like, even though they're my friends, it's like, dude, use your own brain, because now the government comes out and tells me that this stuff is real and this and that. I'm going to be like, okay, why didn't you tell me a long time ago, this and that? And how far does this go? How deep is it? And, I want to keep asking. So yeah, you're right. I'm never going to be satisfied with that. But I think at that point, like, why should you be, if they've known this and held this for a long time, why should you be satisfied with just what they're giving you? Because obviously what they're giving you is never going to be the full thing,
Right. Yeah. Well, so in my own opinion, I don't think that the government, the military, whatever, really has that much of a clue beyond what we even know. I think that they may have some better videos, some better pictures, but for the most part, I think that that they're just as befuddled by all this as the rest of us. But I think the real secret of disclosure is that they're never going to admit that they don't know what's actually going on. Because think about it. If the president would come onto television and say, UFOs are real, they're flying in our skies, they go faster than any of our jets, they seem to exhibit time travel, dimensional busting, reality crushing abilities. We don't know what they are. We can't do anything about them. We can't stop them. They're completely out of our control. People would freak out.
Hey, Tim, you got the job, man. You got the job. Just go ahead and be president, because our current president wouldn't be able to form a complete sentence like that. So just, you got the job, man. I'm giving it to you. You can have it.
Well, I mean, it's I think people would handle it a lot better if the government would say, yeah, we know what they are, we know where they're coming from, we've talked to them, here's one now. I mean, that's something that you can, wrap your mind around. But the idea that these things are completely unknowable and are flying around in our skies, landing, coming out, talking, maybe even taking people and we can't do anything about it, that it's that unknown factor that I think would really be just overall disturbing to people. So I think that's why the whole UFO thing for a long time has been this big secret, because it's unknowable and uncontrollable. And, no government is going to come forward and admit that.
True.
So, and that's with all of this new information that's been coming out over the last couple of years with these Navy videos and the admitting that once again that we've been conducting secret investigations on the subject of UFOs. And I'm trying to remember what point I was getting ready to make with it was going to be really profound, Ken.
Hey man, I'm right there with you tonight. I'm right there with you.
Well, it's okay. I remember the point I was making, and the news coverage that has been coming out about this stuff has been very skewed towards two subjects. UFOs are extraterrestrial, or UFOs are some kind of secret man-made craft. Nothing else. Extraterrestrials or man-made craft. And because I spent many years, on that end as a journalist. I know that most reporters approach this subject really cold. They haven't had time to do any kind of research or anything like that. Most of them, they're beat reporters who, report on what's going on at the courthouse or things like that, and UFOs are just completely outside of anything that they know. So naturally, they're just going to go with what pop culture over the years has been telling them. UFOs are extraterrestrials only, or man-made secret aircraft and hoaxes or things like that. When over the years, it's been shown time and time again that UFOs are so weird and bizarre that they're paranormal. They're in the realm of paranormal. They could be interdimensional. They could be time travelers. They could be a lot of things.
They could be from the center of our own Earth. They could be from anywhere.
Yeah. Right. And so, just as Jacques Vallée said one time that if he found out that UFOs were just spaceships from other planets, he'd be really disappointed.
That guy was amazing, man. That guy was amazing.
Yeah, he is, and he's still around. Don't kill him off yet.
Oh yeah, my bad. So, what are your personal thoughts, Tim? What are your personal thoughts on UFOs? What, honestly, deep down inside, what do you think they are?
Well, when people ask me questions like that, I always respond by telling them, I really don't have any strong beliefs one way or the other on the subject, because, belief is a killer. If you start believing one way or the other, when you're then presented with information that could go against that belief system, a lot of people have a tendency not to accept it. So I always try to keep my mind open, not open to the point where my brains are falling out, but open enough that if, when presented with contrary information, that I'm able to absorb that and add it to everything else. Now, I have a tendency to think that, say, UFOs could actually be a little of all of the above. I mean, the possibility that we are being visited by extraterrestrials is always a fascinating idea, but I think that that's probably. I'm trying to come up with that's probably too simplistic. I mean, I think that our universe is so it's so completely outside of our ability to understand it that the idea that UFOs are just like scientists or explorers from other planets is too simplistic. It could very well be interdimensional or inter-reality visitors, or it's just there's just so many factors involved with the whole UFO phenomena that puts it into the realm of this just really bizarre that it really is the big unknowable.
Yeah.
Take for instance, most of the UFO occupant experiences that people have generally always involve a humanoid type of entity, usually a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, that sort of thing. Now, what are the chances that some other planet light years away had such a similar evolutionary thing going on that it developed humanoid creatures like us?
Mm-hmm.
And then be able to find Earth where there are other humanoid types of creatures. Now, of course, if Earth was, say, like a farm planet, where colonists, millions of years ago, humanoid colonists came here and left themselves behind, or did some kind of genetic DNA manipulation so that we would develop and look like them. I mean, that's a possibility. But say, another humanoid type of civilization colonized the planet millions of years ago, or manipulated the DNA of whatever life was here at that time and created life in their own version. I mean, that's a possibility. But considering that so many UFO occupant sightings involve humanoid creatures of all kinds of different shapes and sizes. You've got little guys, hairy guys, giants, creatures that glow in the dark. I mean, it's like Earth is the truck stop of the galaxy or something. We're being visited by, like Star Trek, by thousands.
The truck stop of the galaxy. That's so perfect.
Of civilizations, which probably isn't likely. So I imagine that possibly our reality is not as we're perceiving it to be, and that which could be one reason why, when we're looking for radio signals from other civilizations, that we haven't found anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it seems to be obvious that the universe is a very large place, lots of stars, lots of galaxies, probably lots and lots of planets. So it should be teeming with life at all kinds of levels of civilizations, with radio signals going all over the place. So, probably somehow our reality is not as we currently think that it is. And that, whatever the UFO phenomena is, it's more than just explorers from other planets coming to visit us. But then again, I also like to, I like to kick around the time travel hypothesis. I mean, what better way, if sometime in the future that we discover a means to travel back and forth in time, what better way to disguise yourself if you're going into the past? Because from history that people were seeing UFOs and talking to the occupants. So, I mean, you go back into the past, and if somebody happens to run across you, you're like, yeah, we're from Alpha Centauri. Yeah, that's it, Alpha Centauri.
which would also explain, I was going to ask you that next, the time travel hypothesis would also explain why we're doing, I mean, whether you believe that it is, us disguising ourselves, or if it's just evolution. I mean, it even explains like people being abducted and medical experiments being done on them. I mean, like, I like that hypothesis a lot. Whether I believe it or not, I don't know. Nobody really knows, but that one makes sense to me more than some of the other ones, anyway.
Well, and you also have to consider that if for civilization to accomplish space travel at any distance besides just your own immediate neighborhood, your solar system, probably whatever kind of propulsion system that you come up against or develop is going to have to involve some form of time travel.
Yeah.
Because unless there is a way that you can go in and out of hyperspace outside of our own local time space, and do that fold of space time to get from one location to the other, more than likely a propulsion system is going to have to involve this basically time travel. For want of a better term. So, I mean, the UFO phenomena could actually be not only ourselves coming to visit from the future, but extraterrestrial races as well, who are using time travel to get from one place to another. You look at a lot of reports that have come in when people, either accidentally or on purpose, come across the landed UFO and talk to the occupants. A lot of times these occupants actually know who these people are, call them by their name, and will give them predictions about what's going to happen to them years down the road. Mundane things like what houses they're going to live in, or your Uncle Fred is going to be in a car accident 2 months from now, but don't worry, he'll be hurt but not killed. These sort of things. It's like, okay, if we're just dealing with extraterrestrials from another planet, how would they know these kind of things? And why why would they even bother telling these people this sort of stuff? So there tends to be a very personal aspect to a lot of these experiences that seem to go beyond just chance encounters, at the side of the road in the middle of the night, that sort of thing. It's oftentimes it's almost like the people who have had these experiences, they were chosen to have these experiences, which so again, it makes you think that, you're dealing with some kind of phenomena that really treats time and space as just a walk across the street. So, I mean, not only are these, whatever these entities are, not only are they dealing with the person that that's having their experience, but they may have also dealt with that person's ancestors, and as well their descendants. It could be an intergenerational phenomena. It very likely is an generational phenomena. Some of the abduction experiences, and I tend to be very hesitant when referring to abduction experiences, because they sometimes it seems like that their association with the UFO phenomena is tenuous at best. But some abduction experiences definitely tend to run in families, going many generations back, and maybe continue to occur many generations into the future. So again, this is something that you wonder if you're dealing with simply, extraterrestrial visitors, why they would be so interested in particular groups of people for that, that period of time.
Yeah.
And of course, you've had some of these researchers who suggest that it's all some kind of, big genetic either experiment or a deliberate attempt to manipulate our evolution, which could be. But again, we go back to that, you're dealing with a phenomena that tends to operate outside of our concept of reality, outside of our space-time.
Right.
So
let's do this.
Wrap your head around that.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So let's do this. This is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I haven't really ever said it, and I know I haven't said it on this show. But let's put ourselves in a bubble like we're in now in the Earth. We're in a big bubble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are inherently, I believe, a spiritual creature, I think. Everybody, right. I think it's instilled in us, right? I feel like it is anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like having spiritual experiences are, some people have a better grip on spiritual experiences, and some people never have a spiritual experience. And sometimes when people have spiritual experiences, they don't know how to perceive that, which leads me into perception. Perception is a weird thing. Everybody perceives something different. In your mind, you perceive something as basically something that that you've seen, that you can relate something to, correct? So what if this is all a spiritual personal thing, and that's why you're getting the your uncle's going to break his leg in 6 weeks, or but you're perceiving it as little green men on the side of the road in a spaceship are telling you this, because you have nothing else to relate that to.
Well, I suppose that it depends on what your concept of spiritual is, because if you are looking at this, say, in a Judeo-Christian concept, then you're dealing with the possibility of angels or demons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you are, say, a hunter-gatherer in Africa, then you are dealing with your ancestors.
True.
That's not to say that any of these perceptions are right or wrong. I think that because, and going back again to that concept, that our reality is completely outside of our current understanding. That we're just seeing threads of it. That the basis of our spiritual beliefs tend to have a major controlling factor on how we perceive these experiences. All right.
Yep.
Back again to the idea of religious beliefs. All right. There's been a number of books written over the years that the UFO phenomena is demonic. That all of this is part of Satan's misdirection on mankind to lure us away from Jesus and God and all that in preparation for the end times. All right. Citing the, like a lot of these UFO occupants are wearing, shiny silver, glowing spaceships, angels of light, that sort of thing. Okay. Then again, you go back, say, like in the, 1500s, say in England, Ireland, places like that, and these beings would be seen and considered possibly part of the Fae.
Yep.
Fairies, brownies, little folks, things like that. And sure enough, the interesting thing about this phenomena is that it has a tendency to mold itself and express itself to you based on your personal belief systems.
True.
So, if you are somebody who bring it back into the idea, your original question of spirituality, if you're somebody who believes that, say you have a tendency more towards Eastern philosophies, things like that, and you have these experiences, then probably 9 times out of 10, when you do have any kind of communications, then the communications will tend to skew itself more along the lines of say, like, Buddhism or Tibetan types of philosophies. Same way with there's been a lot of people who had like strong evangelical beliefs, and they would have these experiences, and these creatures would want to talk to them about Jesus and the second coming and things like that. So I think that there's a possibility that at least an aspect of this phenomena is influenced by not only our consciousness but our unconsciousness. All right, our unconscious belief systems. And it could very well be that there is no separation, okay, between our consciousness and the consciousness of whatever these things are that we are dealing with. We'll call them the others, okay, because they're referred to them as non-human consciousness, all right? But if you go down deep, you may find that it's all the same consciousness. You, me, them, whatever. There's no difference. It's all, you're dealing with the same kind of consciousness that is expressing itself in different ways and manifesting itself in different ways for God knows for whatever reason. But that's that's one of the things that I have found in researching this over the years is that a lot of times that this non-human intelligence tries to express itself in a way that is not only understandable to the people who are having the experience, but expected. It's how these people would expect these things to interact with them. So, I mean, if you're agnostic or atheistic, then a lot of times these entities will also express similar viewpoints. If you tend to be more spiritually inclined, then you'll get more of what's called like channeled communications. There's a very rich history of channeled communications with entities who claim to be extraterrestrials from other planets, yet they spout the same kind of New Age stuff that, say, channeled communications from, angels or ascended masters will also spout off about. So again, is there a difference?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
That's what I love about this field. It's like it's an enigma, right? Like, I mean,
right.
Is it them manipulating us? Is it us manipulating them? Is it us not using our full potential of our brain, and maybe we're projecting this off, and then we see it as a different reality, or we see it as a UFO or an alien telling us something when it's just really us? Or is it spiritual? I mean, that's the thing, like, that is so incredible about this field, is that nobody knows, and it's completely open for speculation, and speculating about it is all that we can do. But
right.
Speculating also, lends its hand to theory and snowballs and makes things great and exciting, and it keeps us young, man. I think it keeps us young, and it keeps us feeling good.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Eno.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's him and his son have written a number of really good books, more on along the lines of the paranormal, but they've also been involved in like UFO investigations and cryptozoology and things like that. And Paul has a theory that with a lot of these cases, and he starts out dealing with, say, like hauntings and poltergeist activity and things like that, that the things that are involved with this are what he would call parasites. And these are entities that are interdimensional, interreality, that are able to come into our reality and feed off of us, and they use like fear and anger and things like that. That's their sustenance, and they're not spiritual or ghosts of the dead, as we would like to think of them, but they can have a somewhat solid existence, but then they can also become like non-solid, and so he thinks that especially like poltergeists, especially violent poltergeist cases, are these things that have attached themselves to, a person or families in order to get their meal. So you take that a step further and look at Whitley Strieber. Now, he has had years of experience with entities that at first he thought were extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they presented themselves as such. His most recent book, he admits that these things are probably entities that are outside of our reality. They exist in a place that is timeless, and that they are desiring to interact with people so that they can experience time. Because where they are now, there's no mystery. I mean, they see the past, present, and future. Everything, it's just like, you can look up and down the street. That's kind of like the way that he envisions that they see time in the universe. Everything is just right there. And they want to experience, the mystery of living, because we don't know what's going to happen 10 minutes, 10 minutes from now. They want to experience that. And from his description of these things, it's very reminiscent of what Paul and Ben Eno have been written about, wrote about their parasites and other beings or creatures or whatever you would want to call them. So if you were writing about this kind of stuff 500 years ago, all right, your perception of these things would be that these were, demons or maybe fairies or leprechauns or what have you. Right now we have what we think of, like a better scientific understanding of these things. So we tend to refer to them as, maybe, interdimensional, outside of our reality, outside of our space-time. But that kind of explanation may be as inadequate as when we were thinking about it 500 years ago. 500 years in the future, who knows? I mean, we may have a better understanding, but still, will it be a complete understanding with what we are dealing with? Possibly not. We evolve our brains and perceptions, and I like to believe our spirituality evolves as time goes on. But I think that with a lot of this stuff, there's still always going to be that mystery, that unknown, that is just always going to be just out of our grasp.
Right. And that's what I like to believe too. I like to believe that this whole thing, like all of it, like, I mean, I'm talking UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, everything all mixed in is to me, a spiritual thing. And it is not meant to be understood until maybe you pass, or maybe when you do understand it, that accelerates you into another level. That's how I like to think of it. I don't know. I mean, my guess really is as good as anybody else's, but to me, that's how I like to go with it, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, along the lines of you, that there is some kind of connection with all of these things, that to our perceptions in the real world, and I'll put quotation marks around real, there is no connections. But if you have the ability to look deeper into that, you'll see that possibly that it's all part of the same thing. And what that thing is, who knows? Right.
Yeah.
And probably we're part of that same thing as well. It's like, what is it? There's the quote. I can't remember who said it. It may have been John Keel, that he thinks that the UFO phenomena operates out of a realm of total information, and that we're able to perceive it because we're also operating out of a realm of total information.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a thought. That's something to think about for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, hey, let me ask you about Indiana. So, are you north, east, south, west? Where are you at on the map in Indiana?
I'm in southwest Indiana.
All right. So
about 60 miles from north of Evansville, Indiana. That's the biggest city.
All right. So I've
close to where I live.
I've spent some time in Indiana. Pretty boring. Unless you go into Indianapolis, it's quite a bit like I grew up in Ohio, and I'll tell you what, like the drive I drove Route 30 from Canton, Ohio, all the way to Indiana is the most boring drive I've ever driven in my whole entire life. Like, oh my gosh, I literally had to like blast some crazy ass music because I couldn't stay awake. But how do you feel about that whole area? The Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. I think that there's something there. There's something crazy. And I've said it on the show like so many times, but there really is craziness in that whole Great Lakes region that is almost inexplicable. It's just like a cesspool of craziness. I don't live there anymore. I don't live there anymore. I moved south. I got smart. I moved south. I live in South Carolina now, where it's nice and warm, and I'm sitting in my garage right now. But but yeah, it's like 74 degrees right now. It's absolutely beautiful. But like, there is craziness up there. Like, that is a crazy region up there. Am I right about that?
Oh, there's a lot of interesting things that go on around here, and I think that a lot of people tend to dismiss the Midwest when it comes to the world of the weird, but you're absolutely correct. And of course, say like West Virginia, you have the whole Mothman phenomena taking place at Point Pleasant, which just set right on the southern edge of the Ohio River, with Ohio then on the other side. And of course, Indiana has had lots of UFOs and Bigfoot and big cat sightings, and then just on the other side of the border with Illinois, Illinois had a lot of not so much Bigfoot, but more like chimpanzee-sized cryptids, especially in the southern part of the state. And then, of course, you have Ohio going over into Pennsylvania, lots of cryptids, Bigfoot, and Ohio's, especially southern Ohio, lots and lots of Bigfoot activity. And you look at the Midwest, and even though it's a lot of it is very rural, people are surprised when they hear about all of this kind of activity. I think, especially when it comes to cryptids, I think people tend to think that because we're not as heavily forested, say like the Pacific Northwest, that we wouldn't have cryptids like Bigfoot here. But I think that there's more Bigfoot sightings here in the Midwest than in places like Oregon and Washington.
I agree.
Yeah, but there's and also, I mean, historically, when a lot of the Native American mounds were being dug up in the 19th century, there were a lot of giant bones uncovered. What appeared to be like maybe Native Americans or what have you, that were 7, 8, 9 feet tall, that were uncovered and were reported in very well-known archaeological magazines, at the time, that for whatever reason, these bones have disappeared into history. And of course, a lot of people are like, oh, well, they're just hoaxes, because if they were real, we would still have them. But I mean, you had these articles written, like I said, in very esteemed archaeological journals, reporting the same kind of findings all over the Midwest. I mean, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin especially had some very good digs that uncovered these bones. That yet, as far as we know, none of them are around anymore. So I mean, what happened to them?
Yeah, it's weird.
Talk about conspiracies earlier, I mean, some people are like, well, there's a conspiracy with the Smithsonian Institute, because supposedly a lot of these bones were sent to the Smithsonian and then disappeared. So, a lot of people are like, oh, so for some reason, somebody's got it in for the idea that before the Native Americans populated the region, that there were, that there was a race of giants living here. But you go and look at a lot of the of mythologies of the Native American tribes who are still in these areas, and a lot of them talk about how, hey, when we first came here, there were giants here. They were mean. And they didn't want us here, and we had lots of fights with them. We finally drove them off, or killed them off, or what have you. So yeah. I mean, the Midwest, there's a lot of strange stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure. I had a big adjustment when I moved down south, and that was. Really, we have here in South Carolina, we got the lizard man and we have ghosts. And I was like, that's it. Like, that's it. Like, I feel so, it doesn't feel right. Like in Ohio, we had everything. We had frogmen, we had melon heads, we had like so much stuff up there. And now, like, I have ghosts and the lizard man. That's it. Although during the beginning of COVID, we had one hell of an outbreak of Bigfoot sightings at the very beginning when everybody was in quarantine. Like, there were Bigfoot sightings left and right because, it is really rural down here as well. There's some big cities, but just like you step a foot outside of that big city and you're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a swamp, And Bigfoot was seen heavily right at the beginning of COVID. So that was quite exciting. And then there's some jerk down the road that has a one of those Bigfoot cutout things.
Yeah.
He's got it. Listen, Tim, he's got this thing perfectly placed to where it's down in a ditch below a guardrail and behind a tree. So when you come down a little hill, you see this Bigfoot. And I'll tell you what, about 10 times I said, damn it, there's Bigfoot. And then I go, oh, this son of a bitch. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, I wanted to go knock on his door and shake his hand. That's how well placed this thing was. But other than that, it's like, we have a lot of history down here with ghosts and hauntings and things like that. And it's cool if you're into that. And I was for a long time, but now I'm like, it's a ghost and haunting. Like, everybody has a ghost and haunting. I feel like I want something different, So it took a little bit of adjustment for me.
Well, I mean, I bet that, if you took the time and dug a little deeper, that you'll probably find some. It seems to me that isn't there some like big bird types of sightings in the past in that area?
There are a couple of. I've recently hooked up with several local paranormal groups around here, and we've got some big bird sightings, and we also have. Actually, a couple of dogman sightings, believe it or not, like werewolf sightings, which was pretty exciting to me because I was, just south of Akron, Ohio, and, the Silver Lake Dogman was a big thing. So coming down here, like not having my Dogman was like boring to me, like I need my Dogman because that's something like, whether I believe it or not, it's something that was like awesome to me. It was like, man, Dogman, like this werewolf type creature. It's amazing. Like, I loved that about Ohio and Michigan and Indiana and Pennsylvania. We were Dogman capital. And I came down here and was like, Where's my dog man? Okay, lizard man. All right, dog man will eat lizard man. You know what I mean? My dad will beat up your dad. You know?
Yeah, Dogman's an interesting thing. I mean, it wasn't really that long ago that nobody had ever heard of Dogman. And then just all of a sudden, it's just like somebody opened the interdimensional door or something and let him come pouring through. But I wonder if in the past that people would see these things and go and it's Bigfoot.
Yep.
Not maybe not getting as close a look. But I mean, there's been reports from the past of werewolves and things like that. So, I mean, possibly that's what people were seeing, these, whatever these Dogman creatures are, and just reporting it as, a werewolf, because that was, that was within that pop culture understanding. But it's Dogman's an interesting creature, and I wonder if the Native American tribes, in these areas, who will go and say that Dogman's a shapeshifter, that it's actually somebody who is using magical abilities to change its shape at night in order to do, God knows what. I mean, like
a skinwalker or something.
Skinwalker, right. And that, it's not a good person, who, if you have this type of ability, you haven't come about it by being Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, right.
And that, Dogman is just one of a number of different shapes that you can take. And of course, I mean, here in Indiana, I've had several Native Americans tell me that Bigfoot is actually started out as a regular person that somehow ended up getting lost, as they would put it, that, like get lost into the woods, and that were turned into Bigfoot by, whatever means. They're not quite sure how it happens, but and I've had several reports of people. There was this woman who lived near Sullivan, Indiana, that her husband disappeared one day. He was leaving to go to work one morning, and she looked out a little while later, and the car was still there, and he was a construction worker, and his lunchbox was next to the car, but he was gone, and he disappeared completely. And she told me about a year later, early one morning, she looked out the window and she saw a Bigfoot type of creature standing in the driveway looking at the house. And she said that the look in its eyes, that she could tell that was her husband.
Whoa.
That he somehow had become a Bigfoot. And she only saw it just that one time. But yeah, she told me that she was certain that somehow that was her husband.
That is incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
One of the weird stories that I've ever come across, on that subject. And of course, some of the Inuit tribes up in northern Canada, they talk about people who get lost in the forests, and they refer to people as becoming, they were made cold by the universe, as they put it. And it's the people, they become almost ghostly, but they're still alive, but they're no longer part of this world. They say that they're able to walk along the tops of the trees and things like that. And I just always like that term, made cold by the universe.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Like those are really cool stories. That's like the driveway story, that's pretty chilling, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's but I've heard a number of stories about people who have had Bigfoot encounters, especially from hunters, who had the opportunity to shoot these things. I mean, they were close enough that they were able to, if they wanted to, they could shoot them. But they got to look at these things face, and they were like, that looks, like a human. I mean, it may be, 8 foot tall and, broad shoulders and covered in hair, but its eyes and face is too human for me to shoot. I would, if I shot this thing, I would be committing murder.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it makes you wonder. I mean, the Bigfoot phenomena is another one of those things that, I've been fascinated by, because I think that, like the UFO phenomena, that there's more to it involved than I think that we can understand. I mean, there could possibly be, some kind of large primates that are smart enough that they've been able to, live on the edge of our civilization. But I think that a large portion of it may be some kind of, something that is able to come into our reality for a while and then go out again.
Yeah, I don't believe the flesh and blood hypothesis at all. Like, not even a little bit. I don't think it's like, to me, it's not, it's more feasible to go with the otherworldly or paranormal type hypothesis.
Yeah. So somehow though, they're able to manifest themselves physically for large portions of time. I mean, long enough that they, are able to leave footprints and hunt deer and eat them, and who knows, maybe people as well. But then when you go and start looking for them, you can't find them.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yet there's the footprints, there's the hair, there's what's left of a deer that's been torn apart. What did that? Where did it go? It's able just to dissolve back into the woods somehow.
It's what makes a good story, Tim.
It does.
Yeah, for sure.
All of this makes a good story. That goes back to what I said earlier. It's just like this is the stuff that makes life interesting.
Agreed. Well, hey Tim, I'm gonna cut you loose here, but can you tell the audience where everybody can find all of your information, your website, your books, everything? Where can they find you?
Sure. Well, all of my books by Timothy Green Beckley, Sean Castile, Diane Tessman, we all wrote together, wrote our own separate books, that sort of thing. You can find them all on Amazon.com. Just type our names in, and then there's plenty of books to keep you occupied for a long time. Our website is conspiracyjournal.com. spelled just as conspiracyjournal.com. I do want to push, Timothy Green Beckley is a good friend of mine for a number of years who unfortunately passed away in May. He was, we were working on a book with him called Dulce Warriors when he passed away. Sean Castillo and myself were able to get it finished and get it published, and it is now available on Amazon. Again, that book is called Dulce Warriors, and it deals with the whole mythology around the town of Dulce, New Mexico, whether or not there was like a secret joint alien human underground base there, and a lot of the personalities that came out of the woodwork, so to speak, that told about their own stories, possible involvements with crash saucers and alien human experiments and hybridizations and things like that. It's a fascinating book, and if you're interested in the whole UFO phenomena and some of the stories that are still with us today, then the Dulce Warriors is an excellent book for everyone to check out.
Yeah, I just picked that one up. I'm super excited to start it. I can't wait. I'm just finishing another book, and then I'm going to dive right into that one, and maybe I'll get to talk to you again about that.
Well, and of course, I always like to plug my book, Gef The Talking Mongoose, The Eighth Wonder of the World. It's a fascinating, whatever you'd want to call it, the poltergeist case that happened on the Isle of Man in the 1930s, where this farm was bedeviled for a number of years by a creature that could talk, but claimed that it was a mongoose. Yet it seemed to be able to do things that are normally associated with ghosts and hauntings. And this case was very well researched, and we were able to dig up a lot of new information that I was able to publish in that book, and that one is also available on Amazon.
That's one of the topics I had on my list to talk to you about, but I feel like I never have enough time with you. Like, I'm not going to ever have enough time with you. So I'm definitely going to have you back on, Tim. Please don't say no. You got to come back on, man.
Oh, well, if you twist my arm, I guess. No, I would be happy to. I love talking about this kind of stuff, and I had a great time talking about it tonight, and I hope your audience enjoys it as well.
Oh, I think it's going to be one of the top shows. So I don't think we're going to have a problem with that at all.
All right. Fantastic.
All right, Tim.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you coming on, Tim, and thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ken.
Well, that about does it for Dreamland tonight, dreamers. Thanks again for listening, and good night.